Milpitas, California. Milpitas/mɪlഃpiːtəs/ is a city in Santa Clara County, California. It is located with San Jose to its south and Fremont to its north, at the eastern end of State Route 237 and generally between Interstates 680 and 880, which run roughly north/south through the city. With Alameda County bordering directly on the north, Milpitas sits in the extreme northeast section of the South Bay, bordering the East Bay and Fremont. Milpitas is also located within the Silicon Valley. The corporate headquarters of SonicWall, Maxtor, LSI Corporation, Adaptec, Intersil, FireEye, Viavi and Lumentum, formerly JDSU, KLA-Tencor, and View, Inc. sit within the industrial zones of Milpitas. Flex and Cisco also have offices in Milpitas. The population was 78,106 at the 2018 census. History. Milpitas was first inhabited by the Tamiyan, also spelled Tomian, Tamian, Tamian, or Tamian, a linguistic subgroup of the Muwekma Ohlone people who had resided in the San Francisco Bay Area for thousands of years. The Ohlone Indians lived a traditional life based on everyday hunting and gathering. Some of the Ohlone lived in various villages within what is now Milpitas, including sites underneath what are now the Calvary Assembly of God Church and Higuera Adobe Park. Archaeological evidence gathered from Ohlone graves at the Elmwood Correctional Facility in 1993 revealed a rich trade with other tribes from Sacramento to Monterey. During the Spanish expeditions of the late 18th century, several missions were founded in the San Francisco Bay Area. During the mission period, Milpitas served as a crossroads between Mission San Jose de Guadalupe in modern-day Fremont and Mission Santa Clara de Asis, in present Santa Clara. The land in modern-day Milpitas was divided between the 6,353-acre, 25.71 square kilometers, Rancho Rincon de los Esteros, Spanish Four Corner of the Wetlands, granted to Ignacio Alviso, the 4,457.8-acre, 18.040 square kilometers, Rancho Milpitas, Spanish for Little Cornfields, granted to Jose Maria Alviso, and the 4,394.35-acre, 17.7833 square kilometers, Rancho Los Tularcitos, Spanish for Little Tule Marshes, granted to Jose Higuera. Jose Maria Alviso was the son of Francisco Xavier Alviso and Maria Bojorquez, both of whom arrived in San Francisco as children with the de Anza expedition. A son of Ignacio Alviso was also named Jose Maria Alviso. This has led to some confusion by researchers. Due to Jose Maria Alviso's descendants' difficulty securing his claims to the Rancho Milpitas property, portions of his land were either swindled from the Alviso family or were sold to American settlers to pay for legal fees. Both landowners had built prominent adobe homes on their properties. Today, both adobes still exist and are the oldest structures in Milpitas. The seriously eroded walls of the Jose Higuera adobe, now in Higuera Adobe Park, are encapsulated in a brick shell built c. 1970 by Marion Weller, a descendant of pioneer Joseph Weller. The Alviso adobe can be seen mostly in its original form, with one kitchen addition made by the Cuses family after they purchased the adobe from the Gleason family in 1922. Prior to the city acquiring the Alviso adobe in 1995, it was the oldest continuously occupied adobe house in California dating from the Mexican period, and today is still gradually being restored and undergoing seismic upgrades by the city of Milpitas. Alviso Adobe History Park is to be opened, after the exterior restoration of the adobe and outbuildings is completed, as an educational museum with historic items, trees, buildings, and documents. In the 1850s, large numbers of Americans of English, German, and Irish descent arrived to farm the fertile lands of Milpitas. The Burnett, Rose, Dempsey, Jacqueline, Trimble, Eyre, Parks, Wool, Weller, Minnis, and Evans are among the early settlers of Milpitas. Today many schools, streets, and parks have been named in honor of these families. These early settlers farmed the land that was once the ranchos. Some set up businesses on what was then called Mission Road, now called Main Street, between Calaveras Road, now called Carlo Street, and the Alviso Milpitas Road, now called Sarah Way. By the late 20th century this area became known as the Midtown District. Yet another influx of immigration came in the 1870s and 1880s as Portuguese sharecroppers from the Azores came to farm the Milpitas hillsides. Many of the Azoreans had such locally well-known surnames like Coelho, Covo, Matos, Nunes, Spangler, Serpa, and Silva. There is a local legend that in 1857, when the U.S. Postal Service wanted to locate a post office in Frederick Creighton's store near the intersection of Mission Road and Alviso Milpitas Road to serve the newly created township, there was some support for naming it Penitencia, after the small Roman Catholic confessional building that had served local Indians and ranchers and had once stood several miles south of the village near Penitencia Creek, which ran just west of the Mission Road. A local farmer and first assistant postmaster, Joseph Weller, felt the Spanish word penitencia might be confused with the English word penitentiary. Instead of choosing Penitencia, he suggested another popular name for the area, Milpitas, after the name of Alviso's property, Rancho Milpitas. Thus was born Milpitas Township. For over a century, Milpitas served as a popular rest stop for travelers on the old Oakland-San Jose Highway. At the north side of the intersection of that road with the Milpitas-Alviso Road, for many years stood French's Hotel that had been originally built by Alex Anderson prior to 1859, when Alfred French bought it from Austin M. Thompson. South of the site of French's Hotel, was a saloon dating from at least 1856 when Augustus Rathbone purchased the land and improvements from Richard Greenham. The first murder in Milpitas was committed in the early 1860s in Rathbone's saloon. Alas, the murderer escaped. Later the saloon was replaced by a hotel that is shown on the 1893 Sanborn fire insurance map as Goodwin's Hotel, perhaps the same Henry K. Goodwin who, in 1890, loaned money to prominent local rancher Marshall Pomeroy. Presumably, this hotel burned down and Smith's Corner, which still stands, was built in 1895, by John Smith, as a saloon that served beer and wine to thirsty travelers for a century before becoming a restaurant in 2001. Around this central core, grocery and dry goods stores, blacksmithies, service stations, and, in the 1920s, one of America's earliest fast food chain restaurants, the Fat Boy, opened nearby. Another of Milpitas' most popular restaurants was the Cozy Kitchen, established in 1940 by the Carlo family in the former Central Market building. Cozy Kitchen was demolished soon after Jimmy Carlo sold the restaurant in 1999. Even in the early 1950s, Milpitas served a farming community of 800 people who walked a mere 1 or 2 blocks to work. On January 26, 1954, faced with getting swallowed up by a rapidly expanding San Jose, Milpitas residents incorporated as a city that included the recently built Ford Auto Assembly plant. When San Jose attempted to annex Milpitas barely 7 years later, the Milpitas Minutemen were quickly organized to oppose annexation and keep Milpitas independent. An overwhelming majority of Milpitas registered voters voted no to annexation in the 1961 election as a result of a vigorous anti-annexation campaign. Following the election, the Anti-Annexation Committee, who had compared themselves to the Revolutionary War Minutemen who fought the British on Lexington Green, a role filled in this case by the neighboring city of San Jose, adopted the image of Daniel Chester French's Minuteman statue, that stands near the site of the Old North Bridge in Concord, Ma, as part of the official city seal. In the 1960s, the city approved the construction of the Calaveras Overpass. Formerly at a junction with the Union Pacific Railroad, Calaveras Boulevard had a bridge passing over 6 sets of railroad tracks after the construction was completed. Though the result was that local residents could now drive over the train tracks without waiting for a slow freight to pass, it resulted in the loss of the historical residential area. Here houses owned by city leaders had to be purchased by the city at full market value and either moved or demolished. Starting in 1955, with the construction of the Ford Motor Assembly plant, and accelerating in the 1960s and 1970s, extensive residential and retail development took place. Hayfields in Milpitas rapidly disappeared as industries and residential housing developments spread. Soon, the once rural town of Milpitas found itself a San Jose suburb. The population jumped from about 800 in 1950 to 62,698 in 2000. Several local farmers and businessmen who had chipped in from $2 to $50 to file for incorporation, had become millionaires within 10 years. Most of them then moved away. According to the book The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein, 2017, when the Ford plant moved from Richmond to Milpitas in 1953, the town incorporated in order to pass laws that would exclude African American workers from residing there. Union leaders met with Ford executives and negotiated an agreement permitting all 1,400 Richmond plant workers, including the approximately 250 African Americans, to transfer to the new facility. Once Ford's plans became known, Milpitas residents incorporated the town and passed an emergency ordinance permitting the newly installed city council to ban apartment construction and allow only single-family homes. The Federal Housing Administration approved subdivision plans that met their specifications in Milpitas and guaranteed mortgages to qualified buyers. One of the specifications for mortgages insured in Milpitas, as in the rest of the country at that time, was an openly stated prohibition on sales to African Americans. Because Milpitas had no apartments, and houses in the area were off-limits to black workers though their incomes and economic circumstances were like those of whites on the assembly line, African Americans had to choose between giving up the good industrial jobs, moving to apartments in segregated neighborhood of San Jose, or enduring lengthy commutes between North Richmond and Milpitas. In 1961, Ben F. Gross, a civil rights activist, became Milpitas' first black city councilman with the backing of the UAW. This election was recognized nationally and received attention from Look and Life magazines. In 1966, Ben F. Gross became California's first black mayor when he was elected by the city's residents and the only black mayor of a predominantly white town in California. Mayor Gross was re-elected in 1968 and continued fighting against Milpitas' annexation by San Jose. The Ford San Jose assembly plant closed in 1984, later being converted into a shopping mall, the Great Mall of the Bay Area, which opened in 1994. In the early 21st century, Milpitas Light Rail Transit System station was added, making it the northeasternmost light rail destination in the region. On January 26, 2004, the city celebrated its 50th anniversary of incorporation and issued the book Milpitas, 5 Dynamic Decades to commemorate 50 years of Milpitas history as a busy, exciting crossroads community. Etymology. The name Milpitas is the plural diminutive of milpa, Mexican Spanish for cornfield. The name means place of little cornfields. The word milpa is derived from Nahuatl mili, meaning agricultural field, and pan, meaning on. The name Milpitas, perhaps used by José María Alviso to name his land grant, Rancho de los Milpitas, may have meant that there had been small Native American gardens nearby because of the rich alluvial soils of the area. The first deed of property sale in Milpitas is found in the Santa Clara County Records General Index 1850-1856, K143, and is dated February 14, 1856. It is Juana Galindo Alviso, widow of José María Alviso, to Michael and Ellen Hughes for 800 acres of land, today the Main Street area south of Carlo Street, but the deed gives the name of the rancho as Rancho San Miguel, not as Milpitas. Geography. Milpitas is located at 37°265 and 121°5342 W/37.43472° and 121.89500° W/37.43472, -121.89500, 37.43456, -121.8950059. Milpitas lies in the northeastern corner of the Santa Clara Valley, which is south of San Francisco. Milpitas is generally considered to be a San Jose suburb in the South Bay, a term used to denote the southern part of the San Francisco Bay Area. According to the United States Census Bureau, the city has a total area of 13.6 square miles, 35.3 square kilometers. 13.6 square miles, 35.2 square kilometers, of it is land, and 0.050 square miles, 0.13 square kilometers, of it, 0.36%, is water. The median elevation of Milpitas is 19 feet, 6 m. At Piedmont Road, Evans Road, and North Park Victoria Avenue, the elevation is generally about 100 feet, 30 m, while the western area is almost at sea level. The highest point in Milpitas is a 1,289 foot, 393 m, peak in the southeastern foothills. To the east of Milpitas is a range of high foothills and mountains, part of the Diablo Range, which runs along the east side of San Francisco Bay. Monument Peak, the most prominent summit in the eastern Milpitas Hills, is one of the oldest and most well-known symbols of Milpitas. It currently has a broadcasting antenna which serves television stations KICU and KQEH to the San Francisco Bay Area. Although not within Milpitas city limits, Monument Peak, Calaveras Reservoir, Arroyo Hondo, Laguna Valley, and the surrounding region are culturally and historically considered part of Milpitas. Loomis, Patricia, Milpitas, a century of little cornfields. Many Portuguese farmers from the Azores have settled there, including the Coelho, Covo, Matos, Serpa, and Silva families. They are often nicknamed by longtime Milpitans as the Hill People. These Azorean families still own the undeveloped lands in the Milpitas foothills, such as the Silvas living on Old Calaveras Road. The southeasternmost hills belong to the city of Milpitas, which then leases the lands to cattle livestock companies. There are also many creeks in Milpitas, most of which are part of the Berryessa Creek watershed. Calera Creek, Arroyo de los Coches, Penitencia Creek, and Piedmont Creek are some of the creeks that flow from the Milpitas Hills and empty into the San Francisco Bay. See Berryessa Creek. Urban layout. Milpitas is divided into three sections by Interstates 680 and 880. To the west of I-880 is a largely industrial and commercial area. Between I-880 and its eastern counterpart freeway, I-680, is an industrial zone in the south and residential neighborhoods in the north. Other residential neighborhoods and undeveloped mountains lie east of I-680. In reality, Milpitas has no concentrated downtown center, but instead has several small retail centers generally located near residential developments and anchored by a supermarket. The so-called Midtown area, the oldest part of Milpitas, has few remaining historic residences and was the only commercial district that existed before 1945. Midtown is situated in the region where Main and Able streets run parallel to each other, bordered by Montague Expressway in the south and Weller Street at the north end. A USPS post office, St. John the Baptist Catholic Church, elementary and junior high Catholic school, the Milpitas Public Library, which incorporates the old Milpitas Grammar School building, the Smith/DeVries Mansion, the Senior Center, and Elmwood Correctional Facility are all in the Midtown section of Milpitas. The Milpitas Civic Center, which includes City Hall, is not located in Midtown, but stands at the intersection of Milpitas and Calaveras Boulevards. The Civic Center is separated from Midtown by the Calaveras Overpass. The boundaries that divide major Milpitas neighborhoods and districts include Calaveras Boulevard running from east to west and the Union Pacific Railroad, which runs from north to south. The newest retail centers are west of Interstate 880. There are several predominantly Asian retail centers with store signs written in Chinese, Vietnamese, and Korean. Climate. Set within a warm Mediterranean climate zone in Santa Clara County, Milpitas enjoys warm, sunny weather with few extreme temperatures. Rainfall is confined mostly to the winter months. During winter, temperatures are relatively cold at an average of 31 degrees Fahrenheit to 59 degrees Fahrenheit, 0.5 C to 15 C. Showers and cloudy days come and go during this season, dropping most of the city's annual 15 inches, 380 millimeters, of precipitation, and as spring approaches, the gentle rains gradually dwindle. In summer, the grasslands on the hillsides dehydrate rapidly and form bright, golden sheets on the mountains set off by stands of oak. Summer is dry and warm but not hot like in other parts the Bay Area. Temperatures infrequently reach over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 38 degrees Celsius, with most days in the mid-80s to the high 80s. From June to September, Milpitas experiences little rain, and as autumn approaches, the weather gradually cools down. Many temperate climate trees drop their leaves during fall in the South Bay, but the winter temperature is warm enough for evergreens like palm trees to thrive. Demographics. 2010. The 2010 United States Census reported that Milpitas had a population of 66,790. The population density was 4,896.5 people per square mile, 1,890.6/km superscript 2. The racial makeup of Milpitas was 13,725, 20.5%. White, 1,969, 2.9%. African American, 309, 0.5%. Native American, 41,536, 62.2%. Asian, 346, 0.5%. Pacific Islander, 5,811, 8.7%, from other races, and 3,094, 4.6%, from 2 or more races. Hispanic or Latino of any race were 11,240 persons, 16.8%. The census reported that 64,092 people, 96.0% of the population, lived in households, 104, 0.2%, lived in non-institutionalized group quarters, and 2,594, 3.9%, were institutionalized. There were 19,184 households, out of which 8,616, 44.9%, had children under the age of 18 living in them, 12,231, 63.8%, were opposite-sex married couples living together, 2,279, 11.9%, had a female householder with no husband present, 1,105, 5.8%, had a male householder with no wife present. There were 760, 4.0%, unmarried opposite-sex partnerships, and 100, 0.5%, same-sex married couples or partnerships. 2,470 households, 12.9%, were made up of individuals, and 742, 3.9%, had someone living alone who was 65 years of age or older. The average household size was 3.34. There were 15,615 families, 81.4% of all households. The average family size was 3.61. The population was spread out with 15,303 people, 22.9%, under the age of 18, 5,887 people, 8.8%, aged 18 to 24, 21,827 people, 32.7%, aged 25 to 44, 17,434 people, 26.1%, aged 45 to 64, and 6,339 people, 9.5%, who were 65 years of age or older. The median age was 36.1 years. For every 100 females, there were 104.5 males. For every 100 females age 18 and over, there were 104.6 males. There were 19,806 housing units at an average density of 1,452.0 per square mile, 560.6/km superscript 2, of which 12,825, 66.9%, were owner-occupied, and 6,359, 33.1%, were occupied by renters. The homeowner vacancy rate was 1.2%, the rental vacancy rate was 3.1%. 42,501 people, 63.6% of the population, lived in owner-occupied housing units, and 21,591 people, 32.3%, lived in rental housing units. 2000. As of the census of 2000, there were 62,698 people, 17,132 households, and 13,996 families residing in the city. The population density was 1,785.2/km superscript 2, 4,622.9/mi superscript 2. There were 17,364 housing units at an average density of 494.4/km superscript 2, 1,280.3/mi superscript 2. The racial makeup of the city was 51.81% Asian, 30.87% white, 3.66% African American, 0.62% Native American, 0.63% Pacific Islander, 7.48% from other races, and 4.94% from two or more races. Hispanic or Latino of any race were 16.61% of the population. There were 17,132 households, out of which 43.0% had children under the age of 18 living with them, 65.1% were married couples living together, 10.9% had a female householder with no husband present, and 18.3% are non-families. 11.5% of all households were made up of individuals, and 2.9% had someone living alone who was 65 years of age or older. The average household size was 3.47, and the average family size was 3.72. In the city, the population was spread out, with 24.6% under the age of 18, 9.5% from 18 to 24, 38.0% from 25 to 44, 20.9% from 45 to 64, and 7.0% who were 65 years of age or older. The median age was 33 years. For every 100 females, there are 110.8 males. For every 100 females age 18 and over, there were 111.4 males. The median income for a household in the city was $84,429, and the median income for a family was $84,827. These figures had risen to $85,186 and $91,232 respectively as of a 2007 estimate. Males had a median income of $51,316 versus $36,681 for females. The per capita income for the city was $27,823. About 3.3% of families and 5.0% of the population were below the poverty line, including 5.5% of those under age 18 and 6.4% of those age 65 or over. Compared to rural parts of California, living in Milpitas is more expensive, as it is throughout Silicon Valley. Compared to other South Bay bedroom communities, Milpitas is considered affordable. For example, a regular one-story, detached single-family home with a 1,300 square foot, 140 square meters, size sells for between $600,000 to $700,000 in the city. These prices are slightly more affordable than the rest of the San Francisco Bay Area, as a similar-sized house may cost well over $1 million in more affluent cities such as Palo Alto, Cupertino, or Saratoga. Reasons for the expensive housing in the South Bay Area include the regional high-tech industries, mild climate, strong foreign investment in the West Coast's housing, and a huge demand for limited homes. With the decline in the housing market, however, median sales prices in Milpitas have declined from nearly $700,000 to less than $500,000, and single-family new house construction building permits have plummeted from a 2004 average price of $949,900 to $269,400 in 2007. 2014. In 2014, Money magazine ranked Milpitas 29th out of 50 for the best places in the USA to live. Law and government. City government. The city is headed by 5-member city council consisting of a mayor, a vice mayor, and 3 council members. As of 2015, the mayor is Rich Tran, the vice mayor is Marcia Grilly, and the council members are Gary Barbadillo, Bob Nunez, and Anthony Fan. The city manager is Julie Edmonds-Meyers. The police chief is Steve Pangelinan. The fire chief is Robert Mihovuk. The finance director is Will Fuentes. The city clerk is Mary Lavelle. The Milpitas town seal was the idea of former councilman and Vice Mayor John McDermott, who came up with the idea for a seal of the Minuteman from one of his son's history textbooks. He designed the seal and took it to Arnie's Signs and had 4,000 decals made. The city's seal shows Daniel Chester French's Minuteman statue, musket in hand, standing in the Santa Clara Valley, with the golden hills of Milpitas rising to the east. He faces defiantly south toward San Jose because early residents of Milpitas considered themselves Minutemen when they defeated efforts by San Jose to annex the newly incorporated Milpitas. State and federal representation. In the California state legislature, Milpitas is in the 10th Senate District, represented by Democrat Bob Wiekowski, and in the 25th Assembly District, represented by Democrat Kansan Chu. In the United States House of Representatives, Milpitas is in California's 17th Congressional District, represented by Democrat Aro Khanna. Economy. Milpitas ranks first in the United States with the largest percent of residents employed in the computer and electronic products industry. 34.1% of men and 26.9% of women are employed in this industry. While over 75% of people who live in Milpitas work out of the city, the daytime population of Milpitas actually increases by nearly 20% as there are more people living in other cities who work in Milpitas than people living in Milpitas who work in other cities. This results in heavy traffic commutes along key arterial roads twice each day. Milpitas is home to the headquarters of Adaptec, FireEye, Intersil, Viavi Solutions, and Lumentum Holdings, formerly JDSU, KLA-Tencor, Linear Technology, LTX Credence, SCA, Sigma Designs, and Flex. Many other companies have offices in Milpitas including Quantum, Maxtor, Cisco Systems, Aviat, Seagate Technology, LifeScan, and International Microsystems Inc. Milpitas is also home to one of Santa Clara County's 2 correctional facilities, the Elmwood Correctional Facility, which houses over 3,000 inmates. Top employers. According to the city's 2018 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, the top employers in the city are: Education. Primary and secondary schools. Milpitas Public Schools are run by the Milpitas Unified School District, MUSD. The school district was originally Milpitas Elementary SD when it was started as a separate district in the 1950s. Formerly, James Lick High School in Alum Rock was the closest high school to Milpitas. Samuel Air High School, now the Milpitas Sports Center, Teen Center, Calaveras Hills HS, an Adult Education Center, on Calaveras Road was built as the only high school located in the city. In the late 1960s $1 million was formed and included Air High, which had previously been part of East Side Union High School District. In the 1970s, Milpitas High School was built on Escuela Parkway and, due to declining enrollment, Samuel Air High School closed. Currently Milpitas High is one of the biggest high schools in the county, with approximately 3,000 students. The continuation school, Calaveras Hills High School, is one of the best schools for at-risk students in the state. CHHS was designated a California Model Continuation High School. Milpitas Unified API score for 2013 is 851. Additionally, Milpitas schools have consistently attained API growth year over year. In 2013, 2 Milpitas elementary schools, Sinot and Kirtner, achieved scores of 927 and 922 respectively. Public libraries. The Santa Clara County Library System operates the Milpitas Public Library. Issues and concerns. Milpitas is a suburban community in the South Bay of the San Francisco Bay Area, and like all cities it has a few areas of concern to its citizens. Dominant among these are overcrowded schools, lack of adequate open parkland, traffic congestion, and air quality. Seekers of public offices typically face stiff competition at election time. Pollution. Milpitas occasionally experiences odorous air traveling downwind from bay salt marshes, from the Newbie Island landfill, from the anaerobic digestion facility at Zero Waste Energy Development Company, and from the San Jose sewage treatment plant's percolation ponds. Most malodorous during the autumn, it is especially pungent west of Interstate 880 because of its close location to the San Francisco Bay and the direction of the prevailing winds out of the north-northwest. The city of Milpitas would like to remedy this air quality problem to the extent it can and encourages its residents to file odor complaints. Local creeks in the nearby San Francisco Bay suffer somewhat from water pollution originating from street water runoff and industrial wastes. The creeks in Milpitas, especially Calera, Scott, and Berryessa creeks, used to be prime fishing spots for native steelhead until pollutants from urban development and industry killed the fish starting in the 1950s. While small populations of steelhead and even salmon still may be seen in area streams, these cannot legally be fished and consumption of legal catches is limited by mercury contamination. The I-880 corridor has experienced relatively elevated levels of air pollution from freeway traffic. For example, 8-hour standards for carbon monoxide have been near to maximum levels for the last 2 decades. Controversy. Hillside Open Space Initiative. In the late 20th and early 21st centuries, Milpitas voters enacted measures to protect the west-facing hillsides east of the city from development. Culture and recreation. Milpitas residents enjoy various visual and performing arts. The Milpitas Alliance for the Arts, founded in 1997, is an organization which promotes and funds murals, plays, sculptures, and many other forms of art. The Art in Your Park project has put many sculptures in local Milpitas parks, including a ceramic tower in Hillcrest Park, a sundial in Augustine Park, and a historical memorial in Murphy Park. The Celebrate Milpitas Festival is held annually every August, featuring vendors of crafts-type merchandise and providing local talent with a performance venue while selling visitors samplings of exotics like garlic fries or lumpia and even offerings from 1 or 2 Californian wineries. The suburb offers a rich variety of food options, including sit-down restaurants and fast food. The city has many athletic and educational recreational programs which are located in several city buildings, including the city's sports center, teen center, library, community center, and senior center. Shopping super centers. Milpitas is home to the largest Bay Area enclosed shopping mall, in terms of land area, the Great Mall of the Bay Area. The Great Mall is a part of the Simon Mall branch and is the biggest mall/outlet shopping center in Northern California. There are approximately 200 stores within the mall with a total of 1,357,000 square feet, 126,100 square meters, of retail area. A large outdoor shopping center called Milpitas Square is anchored by the 99 Ranch Market west of Interstate 880. Another shopping center in Milpitas is the Seasons Marketplace anchored by Seafood City. Other Milpitas shopping centers and plazas include Ulfert's Center, Milpitas Town Center, Jacqueline Square, McCarthy Ranch, Parktown Plaza, Beresford Square.